Here you see an image from the March on Washington of 1963 led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Hi guys, and welcome back to Music with Mr. T. Today we're going to be looking at a piece of music called "Oh Freedom," an African American spiritual, and using it to compare and contrast two different versions of the song that we have. One version is a traditional version that is sung in most churches all around the country. The other version comes from our resource that we can find on Teachers Pay Teachers. With this, we're going to be doing a comparison activity where you and your students will talk about the lyrics and how they are the same or how they are different. You will have a link in the description below that tells you how to access this resource. You will also have a link to a reading passage talking about the 1963 March on Washington. And you will also have a link to the previous lesson we taught in the fall, telling you about how to use comparing and contrasting in those diagrams and conventions in your music lessons. So let's get started. We will sing both versions of the song, and you will then refer to a Venn diagram or any type of chart you would like to use, Venn diagram, T-chart, whichever you want to use to do your comparisons about the two different versions of the song, and have your students talk about and discuss why maybe there might be two different versions of this piece of music. So let's get started. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Always love using our blue snowball. All right, so let's take a look first at the original version of "Oh Freedom." The resource is listed that it's in F, but for my purposes, I'm going to be doing it in E flat, just because I love E flat. So here we go. Goes like this. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Here we go. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. All right, and here's the version that you will find within your resource. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. No, I will not be a slave. No, my rights I will not waive. And go home to my Lord and be free. So most of the lyrics that we have in this piece are pretty similar. The ending is what's different. Version 1 tells us, "And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free." And version 2 says, "No, I will not be a slave. No, my rights I will not waive." So as you go through this resource and think about those two different versions of lyrics, you can talk to your students about the background history of slavery, the background of how music was learned. One thing is lots of music was learned by rote, because remember, on the plantation, slaves were not able to learn to read or write, so there was no music written down. So song versions could be different just because they were learned by rote. So remember to pick up your T-chart or your Venn diagram and check out all the additional links that will help you to make this resource possible and make this activity of comparing and contrasting song versions possible.